Well, welcome back to Community Connections. I'm your host, Loran Graham, and this show is all about highlighting the great things happening in the nonprofit community right here in Spokane. And today I have the honor of interviewing our guest, Edie Rice-Sauer with Transitions. So
Thanks.
welcome, Edie.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So for somebody that's never heard of Transitions before, how would you describe your organization?
Well, our mission is to end poverty and homelessness for women and children in Spokane. So that gives you kind of a nutshell of who we are. So our focus is primarily women and children, although we do serve some men. And we do that through 3 housing programs, 2 transitional and 2 permanent housing programs, a drop-in center downtown on 2nd Avenue that's for women who just need a safe place to be during the day, so sort of a day shelter. We have an early learning facility for our constituents and others who might need childcare while they're looking for work or trying to get settled in housing. And then we have the New Leaf Kitchen Cafe, which is a job training program in the culinary arts. And so that's 2 sites. We have a cafe in the YMCA building, and then we have a production kitchen, which really makes all the product and is kind of our catering arm, and that's a job training program.
Wow. So if I heard that correctly, did I count 6 different programs all under
Very
one?
good.
So all under one umbrella,
Right.
and so everything from providing shelter and homelessness, addressing that to rehabilitation and job skill training, and getting women primarily back on their feet.
Yeah. So it's really kind of, there's a place for somebody to start with us if they don't have housing, they don't maybe know even where to begin, and then we have permanent housing as well. So it's that kind of continuum, and then that job training program for people that, a lot of people we serve have never had any kind of routine employment, and so they don't often know the basics of, don't text at the job and be there on time and what to wear. So that's a training program, and then we help people find employment.
Okay, wonderful. So, and how long have you been with Transitions?
Yeah, I started there in 2010 as the program director at the Women's Hearth, which is our drop-in center on 2nd. It's right next to Wild Sage Restaurant, I'll say. And so I was there for 2 years, and then I became the executive in 2012. So I've been there quite a while. Yeah, I'm actually looking at retirement in the next year and a half.
Oh, cool, wonderful. So how has the organization changed over the years?
I think well, first of all, it's an interesting history of transitions in that before transitions began in 1995, there were actually 3 small not-for-profits, Miriam's House, TLC and Educare, and the Women's Hearth, and they were all operated by different Catholic women's sisters communities. And in 1995, those sisters, they're very frugal, and they said, why are we operating these different organizations that really serve a very similar population? And so they formed Transitions in 1995. So it's from that, so they started as small not-for-profits and grew into a bigger one. And then over time, we've just been trying to be really responsive to the needs of the people we see. I think we pride ourselves in really listening to the voices of the people we serve and looking for ways that we can be more responsive. So the New Leaf Kitchen and Cafe came out of that voice of there's just not a lot of governmental assistance anymore. TANF was ending at 5 years, and people were having a hard time living on food stamps. And so we really felt like, how can we help women be stable? And so employment opportunities was a way we went. And we felt like we were a pretty welcoming organization. That's part of our values of building community. And so food, it kind of made sense to look at food. So that's kind of how that started. The other thing was, and we hear it all the time in Spokane, the desperate need for housing. And that had been something that we kind of danced around a little bit because, frankly, it's really challenging and hard to put that together. It's a big, big job.
Sure.
But we decided we had 2 acres of land that was undeveloped, and we determined that we thought we should use it for this. If our mission is to end poverty and homelessness, building housing is probably one way to address that. So we changed in that we really listened to the people we served, and despite the fact of kind of being afraid of starting that kind of project, we built 24 cottages, and we were really sincere in wanting to create kind of a dignified housing program. So everybody has their own little cottage in a village. So we say we built a town. So I think we always try to be attentive to the voice of the people we serve and listen. And I think we continue to do that. We're looking now at our new strategic plan and thinking a lot about mental health services, the people we serve, the acuity of their needs has just increased. So increased mental health and limited access. Do we want to look at maybe getting involved in that? Also being really looking at wellness for our staff. We ask a lot of staff. I ask a lot of staff, and trying to make sure that they have good care and are supported and that we're flexible in the way we work. So I think those are all things, every moment is kind of how do we do this better and how do we reflect on what our folks need.
Sure. So roots from the sisters in a Catholic tradition, and then it expanded from there, and looking into the future. How have those roots, being rooted as a faith-based organization in the early years, how has that evolved and influenced things today?
It influenced our values. So we have values of respect and justice and growth and wholeness and community, and all those really emerged from those Catholic sisters and their what's called charisms, their mission statements. So I think it continues to drive us in terms of how we treat one another, not just our participants, but our staff and our volunteers. How do we create community where people feel welcomed and find meaning in their experience with us? How do we advocate for justice for all the people we serve and our staff as well? So I think it's a constant evolution of looking at those values and how they impact what we do. So it's kind of day to day, really.
Yeah, wonderful. That's really neat. So addressing homelessness, it's a noble mission, and also and a big need right now, just especially in the last several years, just really all over the country, but especially here in the Spokane community as well.
Yes.
And I know there are other organizations also trying to tackle and address the same issues. And I understand that you work with other organizations in collaboration. I was wondering if you'd be able to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's kind of an exciting thing to keep talking about. Well, how can we do something together? We do a lot of things with Volunteers of America, so we actually partner with them on a United Way grant. So we provide 4 slots for infant care at our early learning facility at EduCare. We also partner with them in that at our TLC facility that has 16 units. 5 of those are rented out by Volunteers of America, and those are for young moms and kiddos. So more the younger group, and we're serving a little bit older population, and they provide a case manager on site. The Women's Hearth collaborates a lot with a variety of organizations all the time, just mental health, other housing providers, Northwest Fair Housing, just to make sure we bring information to the women who are there, and healthcare providers as well. Catholic Charities, we're just always in communication with them because I love Rob and I'd love to kind of get his insight on how do you think we should address this, or what's a better way to move forward. So not only collaboration in programs, but from a CEO kind of perspective, using each other to help support one another and help us kind of wander through this wilderness that we're all in. Yeah, so I think Spokane's lovely in that way. There's a way of really getting on the ground and trying to figure out the best response and not duplicating one another's services. Sure. During COVID, the New Leaf Kitchen Cafe provided food for a variety of sites at Hope House, which is a VOA program. And we even rented kind of some of our Women's Hearth staff to go to Hope House to provide day services when they were at the downtown library.
Oh, wow.
So, you kind of get together and go, how can we make this work? And try to put all of your eggs in the same basket and see what kind of shakes loose from that. So it's kind of exciting actually to do that. And I find those people to be really insightful. If I need a policy, perhaps, like we just wrote a remote work policy. Well, what are other people doing and how are you managing that? So that's really helpful.
Yeah, wonderful. That's
Yeah,
really
it's nice.
neat to see how that interacts. And I know that there are a lot of ways that your organization transitions is unique, and I know there's some nuances to how services are provided. I was wondering if you wanted to speak to that a little bit.
One of the things I've noticed in my now 12 years there is we have a very authentic group of staff, and I think there's a way of listening to a participant's voice in a really special way. Really, we focus on recognizing that we're not here to tell them what to do, but to support them in their journey, and that journey might not go the direction we really think would be the best direction, but the reality is we're there to help them think through that and give them resources that they can live their best life. So I think it's kind of a lovely combination of that sort of spiritual background that the sisters brought, and also a real intensity about being authentic with one another, and that, we're all the same. I'm a privileged person. I didn't have to deal with some of these things, but I want to be supportive of them but for the grace of God, it could have happened to me. So, and not put ourselves above any of those folks we deal with, but we're in partnership with them.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's really neat to hear, just the level of compassion that like, hey, we're not that different than somebody that has experienced crisis, and oftentimes we're all just one or two crises away from
That's right.
from having to rebuild and everything. So,
and we do try to hire alums, so people who've gone through our program or other programs in town. They have a lived experience of homelessness, and I think about it kind of as people are victims, survivors, thrivers, and then they become advocates. So there's kind of a continuum of becoming healthy, I think, in dealing with one's past. So when people are at that place where they're ready to be employed, I mean, those folks bring such knowledge to the work. So that helps us keep it real, actually.
Sure. Yeah, you've got a community of people that have been through the programs and have come out the other side. And
Right.
I imagine that would inspire hope in somebody just starting and seeing, wow, they were able to get back on their feet.
Yeah, no kidding. I think you're right. I think that's helpful, and I think those staff have an insight that I might be missing.
Yeah, absolutely. So how is all of this funded? So I know you just had an event last month,
Yeah,
right?
we
So
did.
do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we do a major fundraiser called the People Who Care event, and it's usually breakfast and lunch, but the last 2 years we've done it virtually. And so we invite people to attend. It was all pre-recorded, and so people get to hear a participant speak about her story. And this year we celebrated the Women's Hearth's 30th anniversary.
Wow.
So we did a total focus on the Women's Hearth, which is kind of amazing to me to think it's been around that long. So that was a really successful event. We're excited that we can present the story of who we are to the community. And I'll give a shout out to Rogue Heart Media, because they're our videographers, and they are able to capture who we are in such a lovely way. So so if you get a chance, you can go to our website and helpforwomen.org and see that video, and know that the Women's Hearth is kind of a magical place where all kinds of things can happen and women can find their passion and safety.
Wow, wonderful. So, and then you have something special around the holidays also, I understand, where you can make a wish list. And would you like to share about that?
Sure. So on our website, helpforwomen.org, you can find our wish list, and that will give all kinds of crazy ideas of the sorts of things we need, everything from socks to alarm clocks to bus passes. Bus passes is always a huge thing for us. So I encourage people to go to that website and identify things they might be able to gift to us. Certainly financial support, money is always helpful, but we also need all kinds of things. So look for that wish list for Christmas, and thanks for considering donating to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So of course, large donations are accepted,
Yes.
but
No. Yes.
but everyone can participate at any level,
Right.
because they can log in and see the wish list, and even just a small item could be a big help.
Absolutely.
And that's really neat how you get that community involvement in that way. So
Gloves, scarves, those things we always need. We give out a lot of those: toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, especially during the winter. Lip balm is really needed. So yeah, there's all kinds of things, and no gift is too small.
Yeah. So well, good. Well, I know you mentioned that you're getting close to retirement, so
I
you're
am.
you're starting to look back over the impact that you've had, and as you just look back at your time with transitions and the different programs, do you have any particular memories that really jump out that were really just special for you personally?
I mean, one thing that comes to mind is for a while at the Women's Hearth, we had some funding to do nicotine cessation activities, stop smoking.
Right.
That's really what it's called. And we always work with a lot of people who have kind of major medical issues, and we had a woman who had COPD, and she was a smoker, and she started getting those patches and really working on not smoking anymore. And I guess I don't know what it was about that, but just she was so intentional about, this is really great you're offering this, because they're kind of expensive. And it really made a big difference for her. She was walking between the Women's Hearth and Hope House, which was a number of blocks, so she'd have to stop routinely to get her breath. And so really was wanting to improve her health. And it was such a simple thing. I guess one of the things that I get from this work is a lot of people, I think, want to see this huge leap, like somebody gets housing or somebody starts a job, but really the work is about those simple little steps that, maybe somebody takes a sandwich from you, or somebody decides to come into the Women's Hearth instead of staying outside in the cold. But this particular woman, I think she was kind of an off-the-grid person, and the fact she took this nicotine patch and really ran with it and decided that she was going to impact her health in a positive way was just something that's kind of the kind of thing we do every day. So that's one thing that jumps to mind when you ask that question.
That's really neat, just to see lives actually being changed. And in this one example with this woman.
Yeah, I mean, we can provide it in a simple thing. Again, it's like those gifts. Sometimes it's a really simple gift that makes all the difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, it's just turning in a different direction. Even if it's just a few degrees over the course of somebody's life, it can start on a new path.
Yeah, or for us, just paying attention to that, realizing, like, for example, at the Hearth, I'm talking about the Hearth a lot, but they have a drawer, and you pull it out, and it's got all kinds of wires to plug in cell phones, because we have all these women who have cell phones, but they've lost the connectors, so they can't battery up them. And I just thought that was a great idea, to have such a simple thing where somebody's so thrilled they can come in and charge their phone. I mean, we just take that so for granted, and here it is, somebody really needs that phone.
Absolutely, yeah, that's connected to job opportunities, to
housing,
connecting with loved ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I know.
Wonderful. Well, so in just the few minutes we have left, if somebody were interested in learning more, getting involved, do you accept volunteers, and how can they contact you?
Yeah, yes, we do accept volunteers. And right now we're asking all volunteers to be fully vaccinated, to be on site. And some positions we're still kind of not using them the way we have in the past, but it's moving and merging, and we're getting there. If somebody's interested in volunteering, and there's all kinds of opportunities, frankly, they can go on our website to helpforwomen.org. They can send an email to info@helpforwomen.org. Kathy McFall is our volunteer coordinator, and she can be reached through that same site. And she's kind of a pro at helping people match what they're interested in and what we need.
Sure.
So it could be everything from holding babies to cleaning a room, getting it ready after somebody moves out, so the next person can move in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And that's all the time we have today for Community Connections, but look forward to seeing you next time.